Hi, my name is Mike Wilkerson and I'm the Chief Exec at St Catherine's Hospice, and it's great to welcome you to our service of remembrance. In these very difficult times, when many of us may have lost loved ones, this is an opportunity for us to reflect, to give thanks and to celebrate those lives of the loved ones that mean so much to us.
Hello, my name's Janice Midwood and I'm the Pastoral Care Coordinator at St Catherine's. Each year we hold a service of remembrance to which we invite the families of those patients who have died in the past year. And it is true to say that some family members have been returning to these services for many years. This year, of course, things are different. We cannot hold a service in a church as we would normally, and the service itself will be different too. Therefore, in order to remember and honour our patients, we have decided to record the service at St Catherine's Hospice. I am very pleased to say that Colin Nolan, who is the civil celebrant in Scarborough and the surrounding area, has accepted our invitation to give the address at our service. This year, we cannot display your photographs as we did last year, and so we ask that you display a photograph of the people you want to remember and have a candle ready to light in memory of your loved ones. There will be a blessing of photographs and candles during the service, and instruction will be given when we come to that part. We appreciate not everyone is of Christian faith, so please feel free to join in or not with the hymns or prayers and to make them your own in whatever way feels meaningful to you. So now let us begin our service with the first reading read by Mike.
For Grief by John O'Donoghue. When you lose someone you love, your life becomes strange. The ground beneath you gets fragile. Your thoughts make your eyes unsure, and some dead echo drags your voice down, where words have no confidence. Your heart has grown heavy with loss, and though this loss has wounded others too, no one knows what has been taken from you when the silence of absence deepens. Flickers of guilt kindle regret for all that was left unsaid or undone. There are days when you wake up happy, again inside the fullness of life, until the moment breaks and you are thrown back onto that tide of loss. Days when you have your heart back, you are able to function well until in the middle of work or encounter, suddenly with no warning, you are ambushed by grief. It becomes hard to trust yourself. All you can depend on now is that sorrow will remain faithful to itself. More than you, it knows its way, and it will find the right time to pull the rope of grief until that coiled hill of tears has reduced to its last drop. Gradually, you will learn acquaintance with the invisible form of your departed. And when the work of grief is done, the wound of loss will heal, and you will have learned to wean your eyes from that gap in the air and be able to enter the hearth in the soul where your loved one has awaited your return all the time.
We're now going to sing the hymn Abide With Me. Jesus said, "I have come as a light into the world, that whoever believes in me may not remain in darkness." We would now like to invite you to light your candle, and we will have 2 minutes of quiet reflection to remember our loved ones. In our hearts, with these candles and photographs, we have named those whom we love and whose memory we treasure. We continue with a blessing read by John Grady, Social Work Team Leader at St Catherine's.
Farewell by Barbara Payman. From the depths of our hearts and souls, we grieve our loss of you. From the depths of our hearts and souls, we give our thanks to you. From the depths of our hearts and souls, we send our love to you. May the love we pour out to you wrap you in its warmest mantle. May the warmth of love unbounded be with you in every moment of time and space. May the love at the heart of the universe guard you and keep you and tend you, now and forevermore.
I would like to invite Colin Nolan to share his reflection with us.
Hello everybody, my name is Colin Nolan, and as an independent civil celebrant I would like to thank St Catherine's Hospice for inviting me to speak at this year's annual service of Remembrance. Although this year's service is being broadcast online, the meaning and sentiment behind today's event is just as important and thought-provoking. In fact, if we didn't have the wonders and sometimes frustrations of modern technology, it would have been very difficult to hold today's service at all. The digital world has come into its own during the spring of 2020 as a way of keeping us in touch with loved ones, support networks and work colleagues during social distancing. We have come into a time of new understanding and appreciation, as well as perhaps prior to the current climate, we took certain elements of communication for granted, such as a warm embrace, the reassuring touch of a valued friend, and the gesture of a handshake. Shielding and isolation are also terms that have come to mean so much more to us and have become a means of survival during these very difficult and unpredictable times. We have come to the conclusion, therefore, that while modern technology is incredible, it is by no means a replacement for human interaction and contact. So today we understand we are emerging from a period in our history which has put us into situations we have found strange and challenging. It has also given added weight to our ability to remember, consider, give thanks and think about our loved ones who have gone before us. As our original venue for the annual service of Remembrance was to be at St Mary's Church here in Scarborough, my initial plan was to centre my contribution to this service on Anne Bronte, who is buried in the adjacent churchyard. Of course, not everyone is a fan of the writings of the Bronte family, Anne, Charlotte and Emily, although these famous Yorkshire sisters wrote some of the best known novels in English literature. My focus with regards to Anne, who was born 200 years ago this year, was to be about her love of the Yorkshire coast and why she chose to spend her final days in Scarborough. Her journey alone from her home in Haworth, West Yorkshire to the coast was arduous in itself, particularly when one of the travellers was suffering from a fatal respiratory illness, which today would be identified as tuberculosis. And also uttered a phrase shortly before her death that still resonates even today. So I would still like to touch on the end of Anne's brief life, as she visited Scarborough several times before her death in May of 1849. And like many of us who are fortunate to have our home here in Scarborough, she loved the seaside. Back then, Anne stayed in a property that once stood where the Grand Hotel is now located. And during her final visit to the resort, she was able to see a wonderful sunset, which must have been a symbolic moment as she entered the final hours of her short life. On her final day, Anne was carried to a sofa where her older sister Charlotte was at her side. Their mutual friend Ellen Nussey was there to help and support the young women, and she recorded the final words Anne is thought to have uttered. "Take courage, Charlotte, take courage." Anne's resting place overlooks the stunning South Bay, and I, for one, can hardly think of a better place for this talented novelist to find everlasting rest. 2 centuries have passed since Anne was born, and in that time our world has changed beyond recognition. We've had 2 world wars, man landed on the moon, and the digital revolution changed our lives forever. Yet many aspects remain solid and unchanging, such as our cherished feelings for our loved ones who are no longer with us. These emotions remain a constant, even in our times of flux. And while time is said to be a great healer, it is also something that marks our hours, days and months, perhaps never more so than in the past 3 months. The COVID-19 pandemic will leave its scars. It has and will continue to take lives. A century ago, the world was slowly recovering from the so-called Spanish flu, which ravaged the globe from 1918 to 1920. Spill forward 100 years, and our lives have once again been affected by a silent killer that has spread around the world and made us reconsider our place in the universe. Since the coronavirus arrived, our faith, whatever shape or form that may take, has been tested. For many, their faith will have been strengthened and continues to be a source of great comfort to them. Yet when we lose a loved one and the battle between life and death has been lost, all of those affected will have had moments when their courage and resolve are tested to the limits. The father of the Bronte children was a clergyman, and as such they lived in a remote parsonage with the dramatic heather-clad moors as a backdrop. The children were raised with a strong faith which influenced their writings and their experiences. And they also lost siblings and their mother at a very young age. So they too knew trauma and loss and the resulting memories to both cherish and overcome. With rudimentary access to medicines, none of the Bronte children made it past the age of 38, Charlotte being the last to perish in 1855. So I'm sure the Bronte family would have welcomed the idea of an annual service of remembrance for their loved ones. With this in mind, I'm always very honoured when asked to help with this very important annual event. St. Catherine's Hospice has a huge place in all of our hearts, as it is steadfast and a beacon of hope in difficult times. We know that death is among us, a sad and uncomfortable fact. However, St. Catherine's Hospice and other organisations are here to help those in need, and this annual service offers a means of celebrating the many lives that have been lived and enjoyed. And as we remember those we have lost, this is also an opportunity to give thanks for their lives. Each life has its joyous times and its challenging ones, and its sunshine and its showers. We also know that behind every cloud there shines the sun. And sometimes at the end of the rainstorm, a wondrous miracle appears in the sky, a rainbow. A rainbow brings happiness and peace to nearly all of us. And the recent use of the rainbow symbol as a way of thanking key workers during lockdown has stirred the souls of so many people. Seeing hand-drawn pictures in windows could lift the saddest of hearts, even if it is just for a moment or two. Rainbows are an amazing feat of nature, and of course, they have a religious significance for many. They are a symbol of hope and promise and of better times to come. With our changeable weather here on the Yorkshire coast, we can experience wind and sun and a rainbow all in one day. I'm sure this is precisely what Anne Bronte enjoyed, the unpredictability of Mother Nature, as much as the golden sands and blue seas of Scarborough. So I hope we can agree. Few places in England can revival the Yorkshire coast and its beauty and drama, even if it can be difficult to reach, and we often get the chilly sea breezes while the rest of the UK basks in hot weather. Yet for the likes of Anne Bronte and countless others, Scarborough and its environs is a place of inspiration and love. There is nothing more inspiring or invigorating than a stroll along the foreshore with the waves rolling in time after time. The tides will ebb and flow during our lifetime and long after we all depart from this world. Many of the loved ones you are remembering today will have loved the sea, its changing moods and timeless quality. And a walk along the beach can give a sense of perspective and of joy, and Bronte certainly thought so. Like her sisters, Anne also wrote poetry, and we will revisit a small number of lines from one of her poems called A Reminiscence as a means of drawing my thoughts to a close today. Yes, thou art gone, and nevermore thy sunny smile shall gladden me. 'Tis sweet to think that thou hast been, to think a soul so near divine has gladdened once our humble sphere. The language is traditional and uses a number of words which we are unfamiliar with, yet the sentiment at its core still rings true and speaks to us. Thank you everybody for listening, and as always, go in peace and go in love.
We are now going to sing The Lord's My Shepherd. And now, let us go into the world, glad that we have loved, free to weep for the one we have lost, free to hold each other in our human frailty, empowered to live life to the full, and to affirm the hope of human existence. And may God be our company. Christ Jesus walk before us, and the Spirit surround us with a cloud of grace. Amen. Our thank yous go to Colin Nolan, St Catherine's IT department, all the staff and volunteers, those who have assisted in the preparation for this service, and those who have taken part. And as we conclude the service of remembrance and thanksgiving for our loved ones, we would also like to take this opportunity to deeply thank you all for your extraordinary support to the Hospice during these recent difficult times and also throughout the year.